Hello everyone, I'm Morden Kanan, and this is episode 4 of my Regrowth Let's Play series. In between episodes, I've done quite a bit of plant breeding. I've bred all of these various plants, including cactus, which is what I was going for. Now, in doing so, I did complete a bunch of quests. So if we come in here, let's complete some of these quests, shall we? We got cucumbers and sweet corn, chili, blackberry, and raspberry. Now, these particular plants are really useful in that they can be used to create magical food, which is a really good food source in the game. But I did get held up a little bit because I finally hit this plant right here. This is the blue orchid. One of the problems with blue orchid and several other plants is that it has breeding that it can do with both of its parents. So if I were to look at it here and look at the uses of the plant, one of its parents is poppy, which we can see that it breeds with to create alum. And another one of its parents is dandelion, which it breeds with to create daisies. So we can't use our normal method of increasing stats on it because it has a 40% chance of generating one of those other plants instead of a stat increased blue orchid. So how can we deal with this? So it helps to understand how breeding in Agricraft works in order to come up with a good plan for dealing with the problem. The way breeding in Agricraft works is the double crop stick here will periodically on a growth stick decide to spread a new plant. So it's going to look at all of its neighboring plants, figure out if a mutation from them is possible. If so, it's going to randomly determine if it's going to be a mutation or if one of these plants is just going to spread. And there's a flat 40% chance of mutation with the configs that Regrowth is using. If it is not a mutation, it's going to pick one of the plants near it and at random and decide that that's the plant that's going to spread to that spot. It's then going to look at all of the plants that count as parents. With the way that Regrowth is configured, the plants that count as parents are the plants that can be bred together to create the plant in question. It also counts plants of the same type. So if it's a blue orchid spreads to this spot, it's going to look at all of the blue orchids around it because those count as parents. It's then going to average the stats of all of the surrounding plants, take that average value for each stat, and then it's going to randomly add to each stat a additional number of points equal to a random number between 0 and the number of surrounding valid parent plants. So in this case, it could add a number between, say, 0 and 4 because there are 4 valid parent plants around it. If there were only 2, that would be a range of 0 to 2. This is why planting in a trench, like we did in the beginning, gives very slow stat increases because there's only ever one parent plant next to it. So it's going to generate a stat increase of between 0 and 1. So in the case where you have a plant that can breed with its parents, the easiest way to get a stat increase on it is to plant them in a cross pattern like this and put a cross crop in the middle. And what it's going to do is when it spawns on this spot, it's going to be the average of these plus some random amount, typically 2 or 3, and then once that plant has grown, you need to replace the lowest plant on the outside here with the new plant. which then raises the average for all of these plants, resulting in the next seed breeding there to be even higher. And eventually, it will hit 10, 10, 10. Another plant that I hit along the way that I figured I would save for you is I need to breed water artichokes. Now, water artichokes grow on top of water, so they need a water block to grow. You can't put crop sticks on a water block. So, how do we grow these plants? Well, at the beginning I showed you that if you double click on a piece of dirt with a hoe, you end up with one of these pads, these water pads. So, this is what we're going to grow our water artichokes on. We're going to create these water pads, then we're going to fill them with water. So then we'll have a nice spot where we can plant or grow our water artichokes. And you put cross crops on these in the same way as you would a block of earth or garden soil or whatever you're using. So now this should breed a water artichoke. Now if I look at water artichoke and look at its uses, we can see that it breeds with mandrake, and that's it, just mandrake. So this is why I have planted belladonna around the outside, because once that water artichoke breeds, I will replace the center block with another water pad and replant the water artichoke there, and then it will be able to stat increase amongst the parents along the outside. So while we wait for those plants to grow, the next thing we really need to do is, for a lot of the stuff we want to do, we need real wood. How do we get real wood? We haven't seen any trees, nothing like that. Well, the way we're going to get real wood is by creating Mutandis. Mutandis converts one type of plant to another. So what we can do is we can create some long grass and use Mutandis on it to create, hopefully, a tree of some kind. So I'm going to make as much Mutandis as I can, because this is a very hit or miss process to get. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to use some bone meal, which is going to generate me some long grass. Now if I just right click on one of these with Mutandis, it's going to give me some various plants. So there I got a dark oak sapling. The problem with dark oak saplings is I believe they need to be planted in a 4x4. So in order to grow that, I would need 4 of them. So I'm really looking for a different sapling, like this birch sapling right here. So now that I got the birch sapling, the quest to get wood, well, yes, so I got some, I got a quest for making Mutandis, so I'll turn that in. The quest wants 4 saplings of the same type, so the easiest way to do that is just to grow this birch sapling, chop it down, create some fireworks that are going to explode at ground level, and try picking up the saplings. Hopefully it generates enough. There are a lot of things that we're going to want to try to get with Mutandis. We probably want to try to get, we got some mushroom, which is great. That's going to help us out a little bit. Got 2 saplings at this point. We can try for some other saplings. There's a brown mushroom. Well, we got one of each. And sometimes, of course, it makes things just go away. I can use it on another plant that I got that I don't really need. So there we got a redwood sapling. That's interesting, but unfortunately, again, can require quite a bit of saplings in order to be useful. So now I've got my 4 saplings. I have birch. I will probably take garden variety oak. And as a result of that, I got a companion scroll, which is just kind of a silly little visual thing. So if I click on this book next to it that's labeled equipment on my player, there is a slot for scrolls right here. And as you see, it adds a little butterfly that flies around over my head, which doesn't do anything useful, but alright, sure, whatever. So now that I've got my saplings, I've got a little bit of wood. I'm going to want more wood than that. So let me grow a couple more trees. We'll cut these down. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in an earlier episode, one of the other materials that the Pure Daisy can work on is logs. So let's drop some logs around it. Those are going to turn into living wood, so we'll just leave that for the moment. Come over here and check on our plants. So we got a plant in the middle here, and if I check him out, so he's a 668, which is a bit of an improvement from these guys. So I'm going to knock this guy out. We'll put him in its place. And I'm not going to put this cross crop here until this guy's mature. We also got some water artichokes. So we'll harvest up those and figure out which one of these is the best. Looks like they're the same. Or maybe I just didn't, yeah, I didn't get the other seed because my inventory is full. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. And that. Pick up this artichoke seed. We'll see where he falls. Is he also just a straight 555? He is. So we'll toss you. We have our 655. We'll get rid of this mandrake in the middle here. And we're going to need a piece of regular dirt so that we can make a water pad out of it. Plant our water pad here. And get some water in it. And as you see, those have all joined up. So now we can plant some crop sticks there, get our mandrake, our water artichoke planted. This guy will help him along. Might as well help him along too. Now we'll plant our cross crops. And we've got some trees growing over there. Alright, so let's see here. So this is the living wood. And the quest that we're working on here wants 16 of these. So there's 8. We're halfway there. Let's get another 8 done. come back, check here. We got another artichoke, so we'll check him. 1099, so that's a huge improvement over what we had before. So we'll plant that, get this guy replanted, break these until he's mature. Actually, I'll just help along. I got enough bone meal here, and soon I will have access to as much bone meal as I could ever want. This guy still hasn't spread yet. Now we're just waiting on that. And sounds like those just went. Yes, they did. So we'll pick up our living wood. I think we're going to put this living wood to immediate use because we really need to get started in Botania. But so we have our living wood, we have our living rock. Let's put some of this other stuff away, and I usually pick living rock when given the choice because you use it for creating a lot of different things. So now I've got a lot of living rock, so let's start our first little bit of Botania here. So it wants me to create a day bloom. So let's do that. Day bloom is one of those things that you create in a petal apothecary. And so I'm gonna take a quick break here and clean out my inventory so we can go do some of the crafting we need to do, and I will be right back. Alright everyone, I'm back, and I have slimmed down my inventory. While I was gone, I grew some oak, collected a little more wood. I also finished off upgrading that blue orchid and started some other plants. The important thing that we need to do now is we need to get a Botania setup running. So the quest book leads us into that path by creating some generating flowers, the day bloom, which generates based on light. So that's a good way to get started. It's not a great source of mana, but it's enough to get us started. Again, the day bloom is made in the petal apothecary over there. So let's get the ingredients we're going to need for that. And although it only needs me to make one, I'm actually going to make 5, just because having a large field of them is a good way to get started. So to do that, I'm gonna get all of my ingredients here. I'm gonna make sure that I have a couple empty spaces on my hotbar, and just like all of the other crafting, if we look at the day bloom recipe, it is crafted with 2 yellow petals, a light blue, and an orange. So I have here yellow, light blue, and orange. So we're gonna fill our apothecary, throw in 2 yellow, light blue, an orange, and then a seed. Then we're gonna fill up, and I need an empty hand, so we right click with an empty hand and throw in our seed. Just keep doing this until we got everything we need. So that's 4. And the last one. Now, if we go off to our quest book, we will see that we have completed this quest. I'm actually going to pick Nightshade here. So now I've got a good mix of plants that Nightshade, just like Daybloom, generates mana passively at night. So now I have plants that will generate during the day and generate at night. Now these plants will wither and die over time, so they are only useful for so long. And in order to store the mana from them, I'm going to need a couple of other materials, a couple of other items. That's this quest right here. I'm going to need to make a mana spreader, and then it's going to have me make a mana pool. So to make a mana spreader, very simple. Get yourself some living wood and a petal, and you have a mana spreader. The mana pool is simply that, and now we have both of those. So as you see, mana spreader, mana pool, and it wants me to pick either Daybloom or Nightshade. I'm gonna grab some more Dayblooms, not that it really matters. This has unlocked a few more quests, including a quest that wants me to make compost bin and compost, which we've already done, so we'll claim that one. So let's get our mana pool set up. So we'll put our mana pool there, and we'll just shoot our mana over, and we're going to need some dirt, because we need dirt to plant these flowers on. And these flowers do not necessarily like to be planted right next to each other. So I'm going to clear out a little area here. And then we need to kind of plant these flowers kitty corner to each other. At least the against like flowers. So what I can do is put these down. And then I'm going to kind of make a little pattern so that they aren't next to each other. And then I'm going to do the same with the Nightshade in the spaces. The Nightshade won't interfere with the Daybloom, but it would interfere with other Nightshade. And now we're starting to collect a little bit of mana. So now we need to wait for enough mana to build up in here in order to do some of the other crafting we need. One of those things is going to be to create an infestation spore. Now to do that, we need a little bit of mana in there so that we can throw some mushroom in there. So this is going to take a little while to build up. Dayblooms aren't particularly great at generating mana, but I'm going to see if I can't short circuit that a little bit. So let me make some sugar and turn that sugar into mana powder by throwing it into the mana pool. Looks like there's not enough for a second piece of mana powder. There soon enough will be. The book also wants me to make horn. And this is the Horn of the Wild. And it's simply some living wood in a pattern like this. So we can bang that out real easy. And the Horn of the Wild is kind of neat. It's pretty much the first automation you're actually going to run into in the game. And basically what it does is anything, if you right click, anything within the horn's range, which is fairly wide, gets harvested. And you can just run around and very quickly and easily pick it up. As I said, it's got a pretty big range. It just harvested all of my fields. Now, of course, I'm still in the process of composting a lot of this stuff. So I'm not going to hang on to it. I'm just going to compost it for the moment. But I just wanted to show you the horn in operation and show you that it pretty much took out all of my fields in one fell swoop. It's kind of the first automation you're going to get. It makes it real easy to just run over here and harvest all your fields at once and run around, pick things up, and boom, you're done. We also got some hydrangeas, which consume water and generate mana using it. They're another one of those plants that withers and dies over time. I'm not actually going to be using them right now. What I want is something a little higher on the tiers here. So I'm going to make some red petals, some gray petals, and some... Oh, throw that on the ground. And some brown petals. And just like before, we're going to come over here, and it's going to be 2 brown petals, a red petal, a gray petal, and mana powder in this case. And toss in our seed. So I'm going to make another one of those real quick. So this is an endoflame, and an endoflame generates mana from anything burnable. So right off the bat, I can come over here, I can grab a couple of coal, toss them down. Mana Flame's going to gobble those up, and we're going to get mana a lot quicker. So now I'm pretty sure I will probably have what's necessary to... Oh, not quite yet. But in any case, let's go back to our book, because now we've gotten a few quests, another quest done, and we'll claim our rewards. It wants us to create, we're going to need a little bit more living wood. As you see, I planted those pure daisies that I got as a quest reward. And they'll probably just sit there until I find a better home for them. So... Now, with these quests we've done, we actually unlocked quite a bit more that we can go and look at as far as quests in the world. So we'll be covering that in later episodes. Now that we've got our Botania setup up and running, not a very good one, but hey, it's something. It's going to get us some mana. And we'll be able to use that to get some things. I'm going to start by getting started on these on the living wood that it wants me to make. And let's do a couple of cyan. Wants me to make a Wand of the Forest, which is the tool which you use for interacting with pretty much anything Botania. While holding it, you'll see more information about the plants or your mana pool or whatever. And that wand is pretty simple to craft. It's simply 3 of these living wood twigs and a couple of petals of any color, and you get yourself a Wand of the Forest. Oh, now we've got this wand, and now without the wand we don't see much here, but here it'll tell us how much is in there, and we click on it, and if we look at a plant, it'll show us what mana spreader it's connected to, that sort of thing. Do we have enough? We do. So there we go. Now we got our infestation spores. So there's 2 more quests banged out. So this and this. Now one thing I want to show you is where I've been getting my bone meal. So, of course, it has been from bones from skeletons. And you can craft bones into 3 bone meal. We can make that go a little further since we have easy access to wood ash. A bone and 8 wood ash turns into 7 bone meal instead of 3. And this is where most of my bone meal has been coming from. That's what I've been doing to stretch it out, make it last a little longer. Soon we won't really need bone meal. We'll need it, but we'll have an easy source of it. And the last quest here is to create an essentia seed, which is essentially any seed. So I'm just going to grab myself a standard wheat seed here, tossed into a mana pool with sufficient mana in it. So let's see if I can speed this up a bit by throwing a couple of coal over here. Looks like my trees are growing. And these guys are all grown in and ready for crop sticks, so let's get some of those down. This one, that one's going to give me snowbells. This one's going to give me one of the other fruits I need for my magical food. And now we've got enough for essence seeds. The quest isn't finished though, because now it wants me to produce 2 of the material that come from this plant. So I'm going to, and this plant is of course a 1/1/1. Any seed you create through Botania is going to be a 1/1/1. So it starts at the beginning, and since it has no parents, it does not gain the benefit of any kind of breeding against parents. You got to breed it against itself. Also, you can bone meal these, but the future Botania breeded plants will not be able to be bone mealed. They only respond to a special fertilizer called magical fertilizer, which we really don't have the ability to make yet. So I'm just going to get this guy up to maturity, see if I can get him to spread. Once he spreads, I'll arrange them in a cross pattern like this and breed them up similarly to how I bred up the blue orchids. So I think that is probably going to do it for this episode. Everyone, thanks for watching, and you all have a good night.